हाँ हमारा ज्वाइंट था उसके
બે કલાક સાંભળ્યા કરો ચાર Good afternoon, Patel sir.
Namaskar. How are you?
Fine, sir.
Yes, sir.
Shall we start? Request to please mute your audio. Thank you so much. We are starting our webinar. Mehta sir, please mute your audio. Thank you, sir. So, very good afternoon. Very good afternoon to all. Welcome all, everyone. Thank you all for finding the time. I am audible? Yeah, that's fine. Thank you all for finding the time and participating in today's webinar. My name is Dr. Dhaval Bhatt. I am the Chief Librarian and Dean of Library and Information Science at Parul University, Vadodara, Gujarat, and the host for today's webinar. The topic of our webinar is National Digital Library, Transforming Education, and the resource person is Professor Pratha Pritam Das, who is associated with NDL project, IIT Kharagpur, and the resource person of today's also. I heartily welcome you, sir. And also we have with us Ms. Sujata Roy, Madam, Chief Operating Officer, NDLI, Dr. M.N. Patel, sir, Parul University Provost, and HS Dr. Vijay Kumar, Registrar, Parul University, Dean and Principal of all the homeopathic and Ayurved principals all over India, and all my dear participants. On behalf of Parul University, I once again welcome you all. Thank you. The main agenda of this webinar is to spread the awareness about the education treasure box called National Digital Library of India. How to efficiently access all types of resources, including e-books, e-journals, audiobooks, video lectures, presentation, and so many information in different language. That is also important because language, there are so many languages are NDL that only platform is giving us a huge language selection in the education sector. So this is the more benefit for the NDL. So on behalf of Parul University, I once again welcome you all. The main agenda to the webinar is to spread awareness about the education. So this is the main about our webinar, organizing of this webinar. So I invite Ms. Sujata Roy, Madam, Chief Operating Officer of the NDL of India project. She is one who liaising with external organization to familiarize them with the objective and purpose of NDLI and guides and works with them to bring them on board as a partner of NDLI. Ms. Roy is an alumni of IIT Kharagpur and has spent most of her career in a corporate sector, IT sector, working with various private and multinational companies till she finally retired from IBM as general manager. After retirement, she has been actively involved in IIT alumni activities and is happy to back to her alma mater through her role in NDLI. She will brief us about NDL project and NDL benefits. Over to you, madam. Once again, welcome and brief us about the NDL project. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt, for the nice introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I really feel privileged to be here today, interacting with such an august audience who are all experts in a very, very specialized domain. My sincere thanks to Dr. Bhatt for organizing this webinar so as to introduce the National Digital Library of India to you all. I'm also thankful to Dr. M.N. Patel, Provost, Parul University, Dr. H.S. Vijay Kumar, Registrar, Parul University, and all the deans and principals of various Ayurveda and homeopathy colleges who have made the time to attend this session today. The Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, under its NME ICT mission, initiated the National Digital Library of India project to develop a virtual repository of learning resources that can be accessed through a single window search facility. The objective was, of course, to enable learners to find out the right resource with the least effort, the minimum time, at no cost, from anywhere, at any time. And the project was entrusted to IIT Kharagpur for its execution. So NDLI, the way we call it now, is designed to contain, like as Dr. Bhatt was talking about, it contains contents of all various languages and also provides interface support for all the leading Indian vernacular languages. It is designed to support all academic levels, all disciplines, all popular forms of access devices that also Dr. Bhatt had mentioned, audio, video, multimedia, whatever, and will finally cater to even differently abled learners. So the features are many and the possibilities are much more. So we will hear from Professor Das after this on details of NDLI. Coming to the objective of today's webinar, when we look at our current portal, we find that our collections are quite limited in the medical domain of Ayurveda and homeopathy. So here I would like to invite you all to come forward and contribute your digitized research materials to be integrated with NDLI. The benefits are manifold. Number one, the research work that your faculty members have done, they will get disseminated to a much, much wider audience through NDLI. Then researchers will get highly benefited from your contributions. NDLI itself will get enriched with your contributions, and even the institution may get some advantage by partnering with NDLI, since the Government of India is now strongly recommending all academic institutions to utilize NDLI for technology-enhanced learning. So we are here today, first of all, to introduce NDLI to you, and more importantly, also to hear from you your views, so that together we can work out a collaborative model that will help us all. With these few words, I would like to hand it over back to Dr. Bhatt.
Thank you, madam, for your kind words and cooperation throughout this organizing this webinar. Thank you very much for your brief information about the NDL project. So this webinar is mainly organized to fill up the gap. Already madam told that we have to fill up this gap. It was noticed that the platform lacked literature in the field of Ayurveda and homeopathy. So thus, to overcome this crisis and with the kind support and motivation from Dr. P.P. Das sir and Ms. Sujata madam, Parul University has taken the initiative to be the bridge between the Ayurveda and homeopathy colleges and the NDLI to add their literature to the treasure box and make it available to the nationwide. So this is our motto to organize this webinar, and we are ready to collect all the information from all over the India Ayurveda and Homeopathy College. So before we start our main session for this NDL, so before we start the session, I am giving you the important announcement for that. I am sure all the queries that anyone might have regarding the NDL platform and any other inquiries relevant to NDL project have been solved by the end of the session. Any question arise during the presentation, I kindly request you to please type into the chat box. So at the end of the session, we will resolve all the questions and answer you all your queries. So please don't type your any other good morning messages or any other introduction of yourself in the chat box. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Professor Pritam Das, sir, who is jointly Principal Investigator of National Digital Library of MHRD and leads the initiative to integrate the digital repository of various institutions, agencies, and publishers across India. He is a professor at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Kharagpur, and heads the Rajendra Mishra School of Engineering Entrepreneurship. His current include computer analysis of Indian classical dance, technology-enabled education, and software engineering, and many more works. Credits to you, sir. Once again, thank you for your time and guidance. So over to you, Professor Das, sir. Will illuminate today's topic, National Digital Library, Transforming Education. Over to you, sir. Please welcome to Professor P.P. Das, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt. Very pleased to be here. I'll start with the most difficult part of the job, that is making the presentation visible to everybody. I'm always shaky about that. So let me just hope that it works fine. Can you see it, madam?
Yeah, definitely it will work. Not, sir. Yeah, right now.
Just tell me when you can.
Yes. It is working.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very
Perfectly
much,
okay.
Dr. Bhatt. Thanks to the participants. I'm sure there are various
more than 1,000 more than plus.
Vice chancellors of different or principals of different colleges joining here. It is certainly a big privilege, a big honor for National Digital Library of India and me personally to be able to present to you this particular webinar. And I'm really pleased that something that we have been thinking about almost since the inception of the project in 2015, something that we started actively thinking in 2016 actually, is taking the next step forward, thanks to Parul University, specifically Dr. Bhatt. I recall at this moment that in 2016, I was in Parul University because we were doing a workshop at MSCB Vadodara at that time, and Dr. Bhatt was kind enough to invite me and my colleague, Dr. B. Shutradhar, the librarian of our library, to Parul University new campus, and we would go around that beautiful campus and meet everybody, the director and others, and we were really impressed. Now, what did really occur to me during that visit itself is Parul University and several organizations in and around Vadodara, different parts of Gujarat, had the distinction of holding a whole lot of knowledge in Ayurveda, in traditional medicine, in homeopathy, and so on, which was drastically missing in the digital world. So the question was, could we put all that together? And I had requested Dr. Bhatt could we work together? Of course, both Parul University and ourselves went through a lot of different developments over these years. And it is really pleasing to culminate today with this webinar when we are formally saying that we have a roadmap to start working on this. And it is in your presence the presence of so many organizations and so many individuals specializing particularly in these areas, that I would like to unfold that roadmap through the introduction to the National Digital Library of India and our vision of strengthening the knowledge resources to transform education in India altogether. So let me just go to the next. Okay, this is about myself. I have.
Sorry.
Thank you. I have had.
Sorry for
Yes.
the interruption, sir. I have
Yes,
one
ma'am.
announcement about the feedback form. We will share the link into the chat box of the FB page. So you have to fill up the feedback form by end of the session, and then after you can eligible to get the e-certificate. This is kindly noted, please. Thank you, sir. Now over to you, sir. Thank you.
Right.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Professor Bhatt. Participants, please note, you have to do your bit so that your presence can be recognized. So that's becoming a default for every webinar. Okay, so let me get to the meat of the whole thing. Is certainly, if we look at this whole project, as Madam Sujata Roy has already mentioned, started as a part of NMEICT, National Mission on Education through Information and Communication Technology of MHRD in 2015, with the vision of the then Human Resources Minister. But certainly the core requirement, which is common for every nation and more so for a country like India, is the availability of lifelong education and knowledge for anyone at any time, anywhere. This lifelong education requirement, the requirement of having access to education in every domain, in every language, at every point, is the basic need which was felt, and digital solutions, technology enhanced learning options have been emerging as the mainstay for that whole background. So we are talking about a situation where you know some of the basic facts about India, that we are a nation who is growing very fast in terms of our young generation. So very soon we are about to become the largest working age population of the world. So this is what is commonly called as a demographic dividend, and it's kind of a country whose average age is going down is certainly a very positive impetus for the economy as well as for every activity of the country. But the other side of the question is, as that happens, do we have adequate infrastructure to train these people? Do we have adequate mechanisms through which everybody in India can be rightly skilled, rightly imparted the knowledge they need? We have a huge school as well as higher education infrastructure, but given the requirement of our students, or given the requirement of the population who need to be educated, this is something which is completely inadequate. In 2014, right before our National Digital Library of India project had started, FICCI and MHRD had done an assessment of higher education needs in India, as to what if all those who are eligible for higher education, those who can contribute to the economy, if they're given the right education at the higher level, if they are to be skilled, if they are to be educated, then what is the infrastructure that we will need? And the FICCI and MHRD did a lot of analysis and came out with a very detailed report, but just the one crux of it is what that analysis showed, that if everyone over a period have to get skilled over a period of 20 years, 20 years, they took a time span of 20 years is kind of, a child is born and by the time of 20 years, the child is into or immediately out of the higher education. So if you look at a 20-year span, then to skill all the people that India has in that working group, For those 20 years, that is 240 months, India needs to set up 6 universities and 270 colleges every month. Just think about it. It's 6 universities and 270 colleges to be set up every month for 20 years, for 240 months, if all of the people who need to get higher education has to go to colleges and universities and so on. So brick and mortar, I mean, simple arithmetic says this is not feasible. So digital happens to be the only stay, the mainstay. And that's where this whole impetus of this initiative come from the ministry. And certainly along with the digital comes the basic principles of digital, the 2 core principles of digital. One is certainly the principle of openness, that in today's time, education needs to be open, contents need to be open, access needs to be open, software needs to be open. In whole of it, the knowledge, the learning, the dissemination, everything needs to be open. So that turns out to be the key motto on which you operate on digital learning, on digital knowledge, educational transformation. And the other, of course, is very critical, is it needs to be inclusive. And it's even more important. I mean, it's important everywhere. It's even more important for us because we have so many different languages in which we talk, in which the 22 languages officially, in which education is provided. There is inclusivity required in so many different domains of learning, inclusivity in terms of every level in which you need to have education and so on. So these are some of the basic principles on which this whole digital learning, digital educational transformation needs to be built upon. These are I'm just trying to give you the kind of the firmament that in the backdrop in terms of which NDLI as a project started emerging. So given this, the way to achieve these basic needs of a very large scale, largely scalable, widely expandable, anytime, anywhere, open, inclusive educational instrument, learning instrument in the digital form could just be a digital library. A digital library that's not specific to an institution, that's not specific to an organization, that's not specific to a group of people, a digital library that belongs to the nation, that the nation can consider to be its core knowledge asset, which on one side would significantly help in propagating knowledge, propagating education, and on the other side will also uphold the cultural assets of that nation. I will not talk about that cultural asset part of it so much today, except for the references to traditional knowledge, but that's also something that was very critical in the background of NDLI. So will just having a library be enough for solving the education problem? Certainly not. So what is required and has been rightly realized for that, so is a digital ecosystem for education, on which a very critical part is the delivery part of it. That is, where you kind of take a content and teach it to the student, mentor students through that, give them assignment, give them ways to evaluate that assignment, make arrangements for proctored, unproctored, various kinds of examinations, certifications, so on. The whole part of the online classes, courses, and delivery mechanism. Talking in 2014-15 time frame when we were working actively on this framework to make digital ecosystem stronger in India. Certainly these were things being worked on, this being talked on, but certainly they were not that prevalent. Over the subsequent years, even online courses became MOOCs, became much stronger, Swayam emerged, and with all the negatives that COVID-19 have inflicted on us, at least it has shown us that online in terms of education can be a great panacea. At least some part of the education system, whether it is in higher education or in school education, is still in operation. Students are still being able to acquire knowledge. Teachers are still being able to mentor their kids, their students. because of the availability of variety of online educational systems, classes, tutorials, assignments, all of that. So that's a online delivery is a big part of the digital ecosystem that transforms education. And so you have on one side the library, which holds the knowledge, holds the repository of whatever you need to learn. And then you have this online classes, courses, programs like Swayam, which actually help you, go through the lectures, go through the assignments and so on and learn them. Whenever you need to fall back on, educational resources that you need for the course, you come to the library digitally, everything digitally on your desktop, on your mobile, everywhere. And every time you are looking, you have found some resources, you could also go back to find out what are the corresponding courses which actually skill you on those resources and help you to get accreditation for that. And the lower bubble, circle that you see here, which is pretty much on the yellow side, is a final piece of digital ecosystem which has, now, in 2014-15, the initiating time frame, this was not there, but now it is pretty much in place that you can attend courses in Swayam and earn a credit which you can take to your transcript. So that's kind of completes the circle. So this is the ecosystem which actually has started transforming the whole scenario of education in India. And the specific piece that I'm going to focus on is on the digital library part of it, and some of the kind of expediting transformations that were thrust upon ourselves because of the crisis that we had from last March. So that's kind of the context of coming to this library. So this is what that library is. It is, as I said, it's from MHRD, IIT Kharagpur. Has been entrusted to develop this from 2015. Professor Parthapratim Chakravarti, who was the director of IIT Kharagpur at that time, has been the principal investigator since then. I'm his deputy, the joint principal investigators, and we have several colleagues building this up. As of now, it has about 4.8 crore contents, of which more than 3.5 crores are open and free. I'll talk a little bit more about them. There are contents in more than 300 languages of India and outside, of course, and nearly 270 or maybe around 250 to 270 sources, different organizations, publishers, government departments, societies have contributed to this collection of knowledge. And on a regular basis, there are lakhs and lakhs of people that keep on accessing it. On an average day, there is about 100,000, 1 lakh content accesses that happen on this library now. But on a more regular basis, there are about 30 lakh users who keep on using this. So just to sum up what this library is, it is a 24/7 enabled umbrella digital library. What I mean by that, 24/7 enabled in the sense that it is available all the time. It is on the web, so you can just go and use it on the browser anytime in the day, any day of the year, and so on. It's an umbrella digital library in the sense that it does integrate content from several sources, but the integration is not, this digital integration is not in the physical sense. What I mean is, suppose if there is a content, say there is a video lecture on certain topic of homeopathy available at Parul University, which NDLI wants to refer to, then NDLI would not make a copy of that content into the NDLI server. No, that's a physical collection of digital content. But we maintain a virtual collection of digital content. What it means is NDLI, instead of taking that video lecture on the homeopathy topic as a file, as a video file, it will take certain information about that, which we say are the metadata, which describe that. So it will say, well, this is the title of the lecture, this is the professor who authored it, this is Parul University who has made it available, this is the year in which this was made available, this is the subject, homeopathy is the subject in which this covers, this is the educational level is possibly first year undergraduate. It says the difficulty, how difficult it is, maybe it is introductory level and so on. There's a whole lot of properties which describe the content, and it is that description what NDLI keeps. So the contents are at different places. Whoever is providing a content, the content remains with the source. The information about the content is available with this umbrella. So all that we collect as this information, so that when the user comes and looks for something in the NDLI, is looking for over these metadata, looking over these descriptions of contents to find what is the content that the user needs. And therefore, that whole thing can be done as the second point here says, in a single window search or browse. So, I mean, you don't need to hop around. Actually, the content, so much of content from so many hundreds of organizations have been put together. So, without NDLI, a user would have required to go to 100 different websites, even if, assuming that all of these digital collections do have their own website. Even if they did, the user would have required to go to each one of them and search it. Instead, all of those metadata are collated, ingested into a single big repository, and through a single window search, the user can look at that. And naturally, NDLI, as I said, is inclusive in every respect, so it covers all academic levels, all disciplines, and within all these different disciplines, it certainly wants to keep specific focused information in terms of various verticals, which we say are domain verticals. For example, kind of organizing content which are specific to different levels of school education, content which are specific for career development, placement options, how do you get prepared for placements, competitive examinations, specific domains of law, medical science, and so on, engineering, and so on. So, I mean, one view of the whole thing is to look at a huge collection of digital assets, which you can search and browse through a single window. And the other view is to take a sectoral, vertical view of, well, if you are interested in information in medical sciences, you do not need to go through the whole library repository. You could come to that specific vertical, which focuses on medical science, and look through that, browse through that. There could be several collections organized within that, which tells you, okay, if you are interested in medical entrance, then what kind of content you will be talking to, you will be requiring, and so on. So for doing this, the other that is very important in NDL is a variety of content. So naturally, digital content now not only mean digital versions of books, like these PDFs and so on, but it could be such text, it could be videos, it could be audio files, it could be just images, it could be simulation, it could be animation, it could be project ideas, it could be activities, and so on. So we have in total about 70 different types of multimedia contents, types of contents in NDL from different sources. Along with that, there's a unique feature of a national licensing. National licensing was conceived by the ministry to nationally license some contents which may be critically important for a large section of India. So what happens in that is these contents otherwise are subscribed. You need to pay to access them from their website. But if you access those from NDL website, if you're logged on to NDL as a user and you access the content from that, then you get them free. So what happens is ministry actually, there is accounting kept in terms of how many people are accessing those contents, and based on those and several other mechanisms, the ministry makes the licensing payment to the source, and thereby the nation can get it as a whole as free. So the hugely new concept in terms of having a national license. Otherwise, contents come from different institutional repositories like we are going to build up with Parul University. There'll be institutional repository, or we say institutional digital repository, IDR. There are mechanisms for doing that in which we can help people do. So that's in brief what NDLI is all about. In terms of the contents it keeps, it's a really, really wide range. And as I go through this webinar, which is particularly focused for professionals in Ayurveda, professionals in homeopathy, this range could keep on expanding. But as of now, we have on one side range of contents which contain lecture slides, videos, term papers, lab experiments, which kind of content which get generated very typically in institutions like schools and higher educations, of which most of you are part of. But in addition, it has all range of contents that get generated in terms of research, the scholarly publications, periodicals, open access journals, ebooks, reports, project reports, working papers, encyclopedia, and completely the new age, digital contents like data sets. COVID is everywhere, and you all are watching different information about COVID. So I'm sure you all have been touching base with John Hopkins Hospital's COVID tracker. You'll see a whole lot of country-specific maps or the world maps of growth and all that. So huge data sets. Research today means huge data sets. It's a time of data science, no matter which domain you're talking of. So gone are the days where libraries used to keep books and journals and reports only. Now we are building up big digital collections of data sets with properties of data sets as descriptors of the metadata and so on. You have manuscripts, you have paintings, you have sculptures and so on. So the range of contents are another beautiful thing about a digital library like National Digital Library of India. Certainly, having said that, I would just quickly focus on some of the unique features and reach of this library. Of course, I talked about single window search. This search can be multilingual. That's an interesting thing. So India has 22 languages officially. So it is important that the library can have interface. It should be possible to operate the library in any of these languages. I'm sorry, we still cannot do that for 22 languages, but we can do that for 10 languages, which is not a small. We can serve the whole information in Hindi or in Gujarati or in Marathi or in Tamil or Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Bengali, Odia, and Assamese, and of course English is a default. So that gives a huge capability for any digital library, and I do not know of any parallel digital library in the world which provide user interface in so many languages. Having 2 or 3 languages is common in Europe, in certain parts of the Middle East, but 10 languages and growing, and you won't find any. Naturally, for that, we have the ability to handle content of any language. We certainly try to focus on covering the entire spectrum of learners, and we focus very specifically on personalization. I would like to spend 2 minutes on this because that's something which may be very useful in terms of the homeopathy Ayurveda vertical that I'm here to talk to you about. Personalization is about if I'm looking for an information, can it be specific for myself? So what they're saying is, suppose there is a 8th standard student and a doctoral student, both looking for information on magnetism. Now, both of them go to Google, they type magnetism, they get a couple of lakhs of pages and surf through first 5-6 pages, each one of them, and they don't get what they need. Now, let's see what they have been asking for. An 8th standard student has been asking possibly about the basic definitions of magnetism, properties of bar magnet, possibly experiments that she can do with magnetic lines of force, the flux, basics of flux and all that. So she's been looking information for that. And you can check it for yourself that if you just type magnetism on Google and check the first few pages of the search result, you don't get good content on any of these at all. The other student who was looking for this information is someone who is a doctoral student. So naturally, the doctoral student, he's not looking for this kind of elementary information. He's possibly looking for, what is the unifying field theory, which unifies magnetic field with gravitational field, and what are the recent papers that have been published in Nature or Physics Review Letters and so on. So he's looking for information also on magnetism, but at a very different perspective. Now, again, if you look at the Google search result based on what this doctoral student is looking for, you'll find in the first 5-6 pages of the search result, you don't get that answer. So personalization is a feature through which you can custom your search result based on who is looking for it. And it's obviously a question of what does the library need to do to know who that person is. Is it possible to know someone? No, we do not ask for, deep questions about the user to know them. But the digital library tries to learn who those users are, or not who those users are. I should withdraw that statement. The digital library starts to identify the usage pattern of those users and identify them as individuals with their requirements. So personalization is when the National Digital Library of India, based on some of the earlier searches done by the student who studies in class 8, identifies her requirements, and next, when she is there to look for magnetism, provides her with contents which are at a school level, mid school, or early high school level education. So that's the kind of some of the unique features, collaborative learning, and on the right you can get to see some of the basic data of about 15,000 institutions are participating now, which means that there are users from about 15,000 different institutions. Talked about having 30 lakh active users, average 1 lakh plus hit, 4.8 crore contents, 270 sources, 120 are ideas, that is institutions like you. And naturally on the way we got some recognition as well, once in 2017 and once last year. Okay, so that kind of summarizes the general information about NDLI, and this is a point I'll start getting to specific verticals. So this is the view that you get. So these are the two URLs on which the library is available. You don't need to take a snapshot of this slide and remember them. All that you need to do is go to Google and type National Digital Library of India. This is so simple to remember. And I can guarantee that amongst the top 3 searches results that you get, this link would be there. So just go there and you'll be able to see the view that you can see here on left. It is also available in terms of as a mobile app, so both on Android as well as iOS. So depending on whether you are on Android, go to Google Play Store or go to App Store if you're on iOS, and you download the NDLI app and start using it. So it's as simple as that. So if you look into this, so now let me go a little bit more into kind of what the library is in functional terms. If you look in, naturally, if you have registered as a user, then you can log in, sign in, so that part. But it is not necessary that to start using it, you will have to register as a user. We advise, we request that you register as a user, because if you register as a user, then you can make use of several of the national licenses and institutional licenses from within the NDLI. If you register yourself, then the personalization certainly works much better. But it's your choice. If you do not want to register, you can continue otherwise. But registration just needs a valid email address. Nothing else is mandatory for that matter. Then there's a language choice, which decides which language you want the interface to be in. You have the search here, and you have the search here as well. So you could click here and go to a complete search page, or you can fire your search right from here. You can decide which language you want to search in. There are a couple of languages in which you can do the search. Not in all of the 10 languages in which you see the interface is where you can search, but you can search in Hindi and some of the other languages as well. So you can put your things and you get to the search and get the result. So we'll have some of those views. And otherwise, you can do a browse. You can browse on different aspects. You can browse by the source. For example, subsequently, when Parul University comes in with this whole collection of the repository, there'll be a source called Parul University. So you can just go to Parul University and search what they are providing. You can also search you can also browse based on the type of the content, the subject area, and so on. So there are different kinds of browsing which is available. But what's most interesting is that's what I mentioned about is the collection of verticals. I mean, this is the top part is for generic user, and more often, if you really are not in any of these verticals, or if these verticals have not really served your purpose, or you are a power user, I would expect that you are more on the top part. Otherwise, you should find the vertical that you need to be on here. So if you look at the first row is study at home, are different segments of educational domains like school education, the engineering, the science. CBSE examination preparatory was created with a lot of effort in a 2 weeks time in May to help those who have to take their CBSE examination, which was to start from 1st July. I mean, yesterday night we got the Supreme Court verdict that they cannot happen anymore, but that was the objective. But it still remains a hugely facilitative, vertical for class 10 and class 12. So these are different, educational segments. The second one I'll talk. Pick up and talk about these a little bit more in the next couple of slides. The second one is a very unique repository that we started creating, particularly on COVID, because with so much happening on COVID, there is a major need to do research. I mean, it has been clear by now to every one of us two basic facts. That one, COVID is not going to go away. I mean, there'll probably never be a time called post-COVID. We had before COVID, and rest of it is co-COVID. We live with COVID. Possibly, I don't know. Nobody knows, but that's what it looks like. And the second fact is the vaccine or cure is not around very soon. So that means that there's a significant, impact on economy and every one of us. And the only way to, work against it, combat it, survive it, not only in terms of medical domain, but in terms of every other domain, whether be it transportation, whether be it supply chain, whether be it in terms of healthcare in general, non-COVID healthcare, every other segment of healthcare, whether be it in terms of agriculture, everywhere there needs to be newer ways of doing things. Ways in which you can minimize on contact, ways in which you can take this distancing, propositions, ways in which you can use online in a very different way. So research, innovation, entrepreneurship around the COVID impact, COVID generated set of issues are a big challenge in front of the humanity. So we have created this whole bunch of verticals here to provide transformative learning, transformative education in doing research in areas which can solve some of the COVID-induced problems. And certainly at the end, I'll talk about some of the interesting featured collections that we have. So I start with study at home, the first one. But before that, just to give you a glimpse of the multilingual view of this library. Maybe I cannot read all of that. This is Hindi, I can read. Bangla, I can read. This is Marathi, I cannot read. Maybe some of you would be able to read that. There are several of these languages which are interfaces are supported, 10 languages, as I said. And that's how things look like. So you can see that if I choose Marathi, then all this writing get changes to Marathi, whereas somewhere else, here it is in Bangla, here it is in Hindi, and so on. Okay, now also some of the things, I'm not sure if there's a substantial number of library scientists, and you would find this interesting that the whole metadata structure on which this organization of this NDLI is a hugely unique one. It is kind of a multi-profile flexible metadata standard, which is not frozen like most of the others, because NDLI, like many others, like Mark 21, grossly is used by publishers, Dublin Core, significantly used by librarians because indexing is the most important thing there. LRMI, significantly used by, educational technology professionals, pedagogy people, and so on. Because every usage group has a different kind of requirements and different metadata profiles. But NDLI, being a transformative library in education, needs to touch upon many of them together. So it uses a metadata standard which is kind of profiled from each of these. So, we have a small subset of Dublin Core into our metadata profile, a small set of LRMI, Learning Resource Metadata Initiative, into our profile, a small set of Shodhganga, the ETDs, into our profile, and so on. So it's kind of a scalable, flexible design. So if you are interested, please write to me. There's a very detailed document on this, which is from library science perspective. It is kind of a very important read, and you can make best use of that. Besides that, there are different access options which are available, both in terms of the generic search as well as in terms of the verticals. So you'll find by the side of every content, you'll find these markers available. So this is most commonly found in about nearly about 2.7, 2.8 crore content. You'll find this. This means that the content is open and full text, accessible, free. These are for national licensing. So I talked about that. And these are different kinds of restrictions. This is fully restricted. This is something which, open red lock is something which is subscribed only. And this is kind of limited access. So maybe you'll be able to see the full text, but maybe only a part of the full text, maybe 10 pages and so on. Right. So these are some of the numbers in different domains. So you can see that this is about 2.75 crore contents which are open and free, about 77 lakh contents which are in national license. So it's about 3.5 crore contents which are in the free and open. Rest are all different types of restrictions. Talked about these are the different types of contents, books, articles, statistics. I'll skip that. Let me go to the more interesting part that I'm longing to go to, so the vertical. So study from home. You can very well figure out from the title that NDLI did not start with this because studying from home was not the objective. Also being able to cope up from home was the objective, but study from home became a mandate with coronavirus hitting us. So this whole set of verticals, of course, all the data were available in NDLI, but this whole set of verticals were kind of compiled together from our contents in a matter of weeks by a overzealous project team working on that. So in this, you can go to school and choose your class and get specific study material about your school studies. Here's engineering, where you can get different kinds of study material in your area of engineering, in science, in literature, and so on. So that's the whole idea. So I'm just trying to some of those I'll glimpse through. So in terms of study at home, if you take this school, that is, if you choose this one, school, and click that, you'll get a view something like this, which takes you school, which tells you all different kinds of. This is where you get video lectures. We still do not know if JEE, Joint Entrance Examination, is going to happen, if it's happening, and then how, when. But, well, this is a very good preparatory for that, which has a collection of not only different kinds of video lectures and so on, which have come from really good faculty teaching in IIT and other similar institutions, but it has the NDLI tutor, which is a unique contribution of NDLI, I would say, in terms of transformative education. This is where 5 years of joint entrance mains questions, the last 5 years, and last 12 years of advanced questions, every question in physics, chemistry, mathematics has been solved. And here the solution is not only in terms of just giving an answer, it's actually a solution showing you ways of how to solve it, showing often you ways of how not to attempt a question. I mean, that's very, very important in a competitive examination. Giving you, related content material, giving you, similar references to similar questions and so on. So in terms of school, we have created variety of sub-collections for different levels of school. There's one from STEMS EZ, which is very, very good, a lot of video lectures and so on. So here you can, there are views which are specific to class. Also, you can choose your class and go there and so on. But that's specifically the school vertical talks about. There are some more views. This is the India Light Tutor JEE main questions I was talking of. You can see a hierarchical view here. You can start with the total, which kind of year's question paper you're looking at, subject, specific question. You choose a question, and these are all different dimensions. Content dimensions, you can see, it's not only the question and the answer keys, but you get a primary solution, and you are often, in that solution, you're often given also clue about, how to quickly get to the answer. Not always that you solve the whole problem to get to the answer. There are 4 options. So MCQ is the art of elimination as well. So what if you could find a quick logic to eliminate 2 of the answers? Then certainly you gain time compared to your competitor. So that now you are not doing 1 out of 4, you are doing 1 out of 2. That may be easier. So some of these tips, some of these pointers are given here, reference reading material, similar problems, rich school collection. The collections about video lectures in schools, activity-oriented learning, these are a whole lot of collections which talk about the different kinds of projects that you can do. So it's very good for the students, very good for the teachers to assign activities, very good for the parents to set up activities for their kids and so on. If you're a college student, then you're looking for possibly, one good segment could be engineering. So we have a huge, we are an engineering institution, so you can understand that we have a huge collection of really, really good content on this. NPTEL lectures, that's everybody knows about for colleges. So there are many more in study. I'll just glance through because I'm running out of time. Talk about COVID-19 research. So these are some of the segments they talk of. So research, when you talk about research, we typically always jump onto scholarly publication. Yeah, papers are important. You need to know what others have done. But in terms of doing research, the other dimensions are equally important. You need to have data sets too, because most of the research follow data science principles. For example, all the predictions being made in terms of COVID will peak at the end of July or in early August and suddenly disappear in middle of September. Various of these predictions that you keep hearing about are not prophetic hearsay, but they are based on solid evidence of a large volume of data. So data sets are what the researchers need. They need other documents and videos. Documents which obviously not non-authentic documents, but the authentic ones that is coming from the government, coming from World Health Organization, coming from NIH, from Johns Hopkins, and so on. They may not be journal published papers, but they are very important for research. Then you have a collection of journals in which you can publish your ideas. A lot of journals coming out with special issues and so on. Ideas are being floated, challenges are being thrown up that you can solve this problem in next 4 weeks. There is a 5 lakh rupee prize on that and so on. So there's a wide variety of things for innovation and research happening. So COVID-19 vertical of NDLI focuses on collecting, it's regularly collecting and putting up information on that vertical. So these are some of the sequent views which I'll skip. I talked about this. The next one, the last but not the least, are featured collections, which are for general interest readers. So we feature a number of collections, like we typically feature for a year. We feature if that year is a birth centenary of someone very, very special. So this year we are featuring birth centenary of the genius Satyajit Ray, who was a renowned Oscar-winning filmmaker from Bengal and did a lot of work. And we have a special collection of his 39 film scripts, handwritten film scripts, only available on NDLI, so we are featuring that here. But on every day, we usually feature a thought in terms of the library. Several contributors are contributing their own collections, their own creations. So those interesting ones we showcase by a person of the week, showing that contributor for a week. We pick up a topic for the week, something which is educationally important, particularly, I should say. So that's a criteria I use. We put in a lot of talks and webinars that are happening and so on. So these are different featured collections that keep on happening. Now, having said that, in the last, I've already actually run out of time, but I'll take a couple of minutes more with permission from Dr. Bhatt. Is if you look into this whole thing in terms of verticals, I'm back to the original slide. Is if you look into, we have school, we have different higher education, engineering, science, humanities, literature, but one big missing piece is medical. We have not been doing enough in terms of the medical science. So that's kind of has been a vision to put together the missing piece of medical sciences. So we do have quite a bit of collection in that. For example, if you go to browsing source and look at the PubMed Central, which I'm sure anybody in medical science would always keep on looking at, we have a fairly good ingestion of that. So you'll find about 38 lakh collection contents there. World Health Organization, this slide was made a little earlier. World Health Organization, if you look at now, you'll find 26 lakh. This shows 9 lakh contents. You'll find 26 lakh content which come from different World Health Organization publications. So there are contents from MedEnd, MDPI, there are Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Sciences. So we have, we are partnering with All India Medical Science in New Delhi and so on. So we have been collecting, content from medical domain, and they're collated in the common part, but we are yet to come up with a vertical. But I really want to make the appeal to you all is while in terms of this kind of allopathic medicine and treatment processes, there's a huge availability of digital contents all across the net through different libraries, through different general collections. But if you look into the traditional medical knowledge of India, the Ayurveda and the related traditional knowledge, there's hardly anything available in terms of the digital collection. So if I would like to focus on education in those areas, the library has, we do have some collections on Ayurveda. This is if you look, search NDLI with Ayurveda, you get 3,400 contents, but that's certainly very meager in terms of in terms of actually supporting any education. And so that's kind of the gap area. Similar thing exists for homeopathy as well. There are some 3,000 odd contents here. There's some more you can see in terms of homeopathy journal coverage and so on. But overall, the content coverage in homeopathy and Ayurveda has been really, really poor because of several reasons. One is significantly digital content in these domains as such are much less available. And second, certainly it has not been easy for us. We are a strongly science technology driven institute. It's not easy for us to understand these domains and kind of build up connection. And that is where I make the appeal to you all. That is where I make the appeal to Parul University. And I'm really, really glad that Dr. Bhatt and her team has paid attention to that appeal and has come forward to work with you all to create this vertical of homeopathy and Ayurveda. So kind of I'll close with this slide, give you a glimpse of what we think the process should be. The initial part of the process, which we have already started working on, is that Parul University will set up, has its own institutional digital repository and will sign an agreement with NDLI to become partner. And once that partnership has been set up, then naturally NDLI will start harvesting metadata from Parul University IDEA. So that's a common content integration process that we do. for all ideas we have done for about 120 years, as I said. Now, the next role, the added role that Parul University is kindly taking upon themselves is to be the domain expert in this area of homeopathy and Ayurveda education, and will be the knowledge coordinator on behalf of NDLI. And they will reach out to all of you, to other homeopathy and Ayurveda institutions for their contributions on our behalf. Now, we understand that for many of you, it may not be easy to put together an idea because of resource issues, because of not having adequate IT manpower, because of not having the initial momentum of doing things. At times, you may have things in physical domain which needs to be even digitized to brought in and so on. So Parul University is taking that coordinator's responsibility of bringing that material together and to be hosted in their idea. Now, there are two parts to it. One is when this hosting happens, then certainly we will work it out in a way so that if such a content is being presented to the user, then the user will get to know both facts, that the user will get to know that the particular college or university who have provided that content, their logo and name will be visible on that page. The logo and name of Parul University as knowledge coordinator will be visible on the page, and the whole thing will come under National Digital Library of India. So that in this way, we can all benefit by bringing in the right content to the user. The user will have the confidence that what they are looking at are really authentic in terms of the institutions that these are coming from. So to make this work, we will need to work out some more content agreement, because you will understand the National Digital Library of India, being a national entity, has to always take care of the copyright issues. So if as a college you are offering a content created by you through Parul University to NDLI for sharing, then NDLI need to directly have an undertaking from you that you hold the rights to be able to do that. So I know you will always only provide content which you have created, but then on paper also that that guarantee is required. So we will need to work out a direct content partnership agreement with you. Once you agree that Parul University will facilitate this content linkages with you, and you would like to give that content onto NDLI. So once contribution from several such institutions are hosted on Parul idea, a second round of integration will be done. We will not, may not be start doing this individual institutional integration right when we get started, but once maybe 5-6 colleges, universities have made contributions to Parul University and we have a substantial collection, we'll start periodically bringing that in live on the platform of NDLI, so that when the browser searching happens, then your institutional name would be available on that browser, so that everybody would get to know that you have contributed very actively, positively to the transformative educational framework in homeopathy as well as Ayurveda. So please participate in that. So with that appeal and with that note, I will stop here. I have exceeded by 7 minutes. I'm very sorry about that, but then there are important things to talk to you about, and this is a very rare opportunity that I got to connect to so many of you together. Thank you very much. I'll stop here and hand over to Dr. Bhatt for taking this forward, and if there are questions, to be honest.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your depth information about the NDL and how NDL will help us in transforming education. Really, your presentation will help us in a real sense of transformation in digital way. We will definitely come to one platform especially for the Ayurveda and homeopathy within a short time of a span, and we expect the contribution from building this repository for Ayurveda and homeopathy. I request all the principals and all the homeopathic and Ayurveda librarians to please come up with the proposal and support us to build up this a huge digital repository for specially Ayurveda and homeopathic. So this is the question answer round. So I think so there are little bit 4 to 5 questions. If you, sir, permit us, I will ask you.
Absolutely, absolutely, madam. I'm available to answer any question.
Thank you, sir. So one question is from our other like Hathi Trust Digital Library, NERO, NROER, Internet Activity HU project generator searchable through NDLI. Is it possible?
Would you state the question once more? I did not get it right.
Are the OER like Hathi Trust and Digital Library, Internet Archives and Project Jetable searchable through NDLI? NDLI covered this, all the Hathi Trust and all the digital resources?
It depends on different resources. For example, Internet Archives we don't cover.
Okay.
We don't cover because there are serious issues about Internet Archive, because Internet Archive do not respect copyright policies.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and if you have been looking around, you'll find that in last 1 month there's been at least 4 or 5 court cases against them, some of which the verdict has already been given against them.
Yeah, this is a
So,
question from
I mean,
Christopher Sukhdev.
So any source that we integrate with, we do a kind of a content agreement to get the assurance that contents are. I mean, the source does hold the rights to share that content.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
without that, we cannot do that, and Internet Archive cannot make that statement because they do not follow that principle.
Okay.
Regarding several others, Hathi Trust is under discussion. It is still not there. But things got slowed down because of this COVID. So otherwise, some of the very active collaborations will include Wikimedia. So we signed a partnership with Wikimedia. Wikimedia is the organization which is behind all wiki projects, like Wikipedia and all of that. So we have signed up with them in last December, but we could not do much concrete things because of this COVID issues. We have been talking, but
but very shortly we can get some more information.
It keeps on happening on a regular basis. So I would say that if you have any specific source in mind which you think can be integrated, our basic criterion is we normally do not want to integrate a source unless it gives you substantial content in free and open domain. We would not substantially integrate contents which are closed. So if anyone has suggestions on that, we would be most welcome. If someone wants to facilitate integrating a source, we would be most welcome to do that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. One more question is, can we browse our library in NDLI by Shah Sharma? So
I did not get that. What is by
can
Sharma?
we browse our library in NDLI? So if your data is metadata is collaborate with NDLI, then definitely you can.
Yes, of course, of course.
So
if any digital, I mean, you'll see. I said 120 institutions have integrated, so you can browse what all they have shared.
Library resources. Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Their name would be there, and you can share. You can find out what they have. Actually, we are also working on another project with InflibNet to integrate the physical book catalog information with NDLI.
Okay.
So with that, even physically catalog books, many of them, whichever library has shared that with InflibNet, you'll be able to browse that through here. So I may be able to. Once this is done, I may be able to search for a content in Parul University and then tell the user that this book is available physically in Parul University.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So that project has just started with InflibNet. So I hope by end of this year, we will have that live.
Yeah. One question is from Sandhya Shannan. Are you accepting bulk registration for school?
We accept bulk registration for anybody, everybody. We want every user to be welcome.
And how to do it? She said how to do it.
The madam is sitting right here. You can see her, Madam Sujata Roy. Send a mail to her. She will get it done.
Yeah, I will share the email ID.
Yeah. All that it needs is, for bulk registration, we need one person from that organization to be the nodal officer, who will coordinate that bulk registration and will be given that access so that he or she can periodically upload the data of the users directly on the system. And then the system individually will send out mails to each one of these users. And they will get registered. That's a simple process.
One question is from Srivan Nivasalu. Is there any institutional membership in NDL? So,
institutional membership in the sense, I mean, you become a content partner if you are sharing your content, and then your name features as on the contributing institution. So that's the membership. If you had asked whether there's a paid membership of anything, no, nothing like that. It's an open free system, so it's for everybody.
Yeah, this is one.
So if you want your name on the NDLI, please contribute your content to NDLI and through your content. That's it.
Then one question is from Khemchand Mahajan. Does NDLI provide free download?
As I said, of the 4.8 crore content, about 3 to 3.5 crore are free and open. So if a content is free and open, usually you'll be able to download that.
Okay.
So, but others, for the remaining 1.5 crore, it may be selective. Some may be partially open. Some may be open for reading but closed for download, or maybe open for reading, closed for printing and download. But more than 3.5 crore are open and free, on which you should be able to do this.
Okay. So now only two questions I will allow. Are the NDLI are public to the users? This is from Frenchino.
Public means it's open to everybody, anybody in the world.
Yes. And now last question with NDLI.
I should just make one rejoinder to this. It is a publicly hosted URL, so anybody can access that. But some of the content which are nationally licensed will have certain geographic restrictions. So they will not be available outside those reports. But rest of the library available to anywhere, to anybody in the world.
Yeah. So last question with NDL, is there need for school library to subscribe e-resources? Seema Ahuja.
See, when you subscribe to school resources or even college resources, then you are talking about paid content. NDLI normally do not support paid content except for the nationally licensed one, which are very, very generic. So right now, the school's paid contents are not available in NDLI. We try to find equivalent or at times better quality equivalent content from elsewhere in the world, elsewhere in India or from elsewhere in the world, and put them so that you can make use of that. For example, we have integration of STEM-Z, Khan Academy, PhET. These are all excellent contents, National Science Digital Library and so on, at different levels of school classes. But if you are specifically looking for a subscribed content that are paid, like Byju's, like Vedantu's, like and all of that, certainly we won't have.
So I think so. It looks like we have covered all our questions. In case of any other queries or any other question, please feel free to contact us at email IDs display on your screen right now. So I think this is the fine end of this session webinar. So I invite Mr. Chirag Patel for the vote of thanks to our eminent speakers. So Chirag bhai.
Very good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of Team Parul University Library, we from the very bottom of our heart express our sincere gratitude to Professor Das sir for conducting a highly effective session. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time for this webinar and give the informative information to the entire group of the librarians of the Ayurvedic and Homeopathy. We also thankful to Ms. Sujata Roy Madam for showering the knowledge about NDLI and marvelous support for this webinar from the beginning of the when we started the thinking about the webinar. From that day, she continuously contact with us and give our support. I am also thankful to our university provost sir and registrar sir, as well as all the principals, deans and directors, those who had always support and encourage our library activities and make this event grand success. Big thanks to all the participants. Without participants, the event cannot be complete. So I am thankful to all the participants, especially principals, deans and directors of Ayurveda and homeopathic institutions for sparing their valuable time. Parul University takes this opportunity to sincerely thank the entire NDLI team for the kind consent to provide necessary support. My sincere gratitude to Mr. Brijesh Acharya, which is our Parul University nodal officer, for wonderful IT support. With this support, we are able to live streaming on Facebook. Thank you very much to the entire team of Parul University for their share, vision and continued support. Last but not least, I am thankful to one and all those who support to make this event successful. With this, we come to the end of today's session. You are requested to submit feedback form for the certificate. Till then, goodbye, take care, stay home, stay safe. Thank you all of you.
Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Namaskar.